What's up, folks? Coming at you with another car news nuggets. This time, I'm going to circle back around to one of the previous topics I discussed regarding vehicle data gathering and the security wrapped around that, and some of the risks associated with newer vehicles that are constantly tracking just about everything, gathering data, and also exposing systems which allow vehicles to be remotely controlled. I work for a company called F5. We specialize in application delivery and security. So, if you're going to visit a website or a web application or any number of different applications available over a network, we produce hardware and software that sits in the path and allows our customers and users to analyze the data crossing their network, and it enables them to then layer security functionality on top so that they can protect themselves from attacks and exploits and so on and so forth. And I just saw this was released by our security team, the internal, one of the internal security teams that does a lot with keeping track of actively exploited vulnerabilities. And there's a lot of really cool stuff. If you want to look up F5 Labs, that is effectively kind of like our attempt to go out and look at what's happening abroad and then use the information that we're seeing from the wild to inform ourselves and our products on how to ensure our customers are protected. So this headline here, the Subaru Starlink discoveries, is very intriguing to me. I have not fully read through all of this yet, so I'm going to read through it. Not only this excerpt here, but also the article that is linked itself. So this week, Sam Curry and team discovered much the same vulnerabilities in Subaru Starlink as they had in Kia's back end this previous September. As legacy automotive companies push to support connected services in their vehicles, they are increasingly turning to contractors or standing up new software teams internally. Without the institutional knowledge of a traditional software company and the management knowledge to prioritize security in these new initiatives, they are creating software and systems that are vulnerable, not just in literal vulnerabilities in a website sense, but on an architectural level. Dealers should not be able to administer any vehicle in the Subaru global fleet without any restrictions, and I could not agree more. So let's dive into this article that's linked here, the Hacking Subaru at samcurry.net. This was published last Thursday. On November 20th, 2024, Shubham Shah and I discovered a security vulnerability in Subaru's Starlink connected vehicle service that gave us unrestricted targeted access to all vehicles and customer accounts in the United States, Canada, and Japan. Using the access provided by the vulnerability, an attacker who only knew a victim's last name, zip code, email address, phone number, or license plate could have done the following: remotely start, stop, lock, unlock, and retrieve the current location of any vehicle. Retrieve any vehicle's complete location history from the past year, accurate to within 5 meters and updated each time the engine starts. Query and retrieve personally identifiable information of any customer, including emergency contacts, authorized users, physical address, billing information, and vehicle PIN. Access miscellaneous user data, including support call history, previous owners, odometer reading, sales history, and more. After reporting the vulnerability, the affected system was patched within 24 hours and never exploited maliciously. That is fantastic news. I will not dig into these nested videos. I will link this below so that you all can come and take a look, but it's highly concerning, and this has been on my radar for quite some time, and not just in the sense of vehicle software security and connected services, but just with software in general. As an insider in the industry and having worked as a software developer in the financial industry for several years, I can tell you right now that many, many very large, extremely well-known companies are outsourcing a lot of their software development to, I'll just say, companies who are more concerned about having warm bodies and seats than they are producing quality products. So please, please, please be mindful about what you do, what kind of car you buy, all of the connected services that are covered for the vehicle or may be included. You don't know where the next vulnerability is going to pop up until it pops up. I'll read a little bit more through here and then kind of explain what we're looking at from a code standpoint. The vulnerability write-up. A little over a year ago, I bought my mom a 2023 Subaru Impreza, nice, with the promise that she would let me borrow it and try to hack it. I'd spent the last few years hunting for vulnerabilities in other automakers, but didn't yet have the chance to look at Subaru. While visiting home for Thanksgiving this year, I took my opportunity and asked for the account login to see if I could get anywhere. Auditing the MySubaru mobile app. The first thing I wanted to test was the MySubaru app. This app allows users to send vehicle commands, so I proxied the app using Burp Suite and intercepted the telematic command HTTP requests, hoping to find a vulnerability to unlock cars without authorization. The below request was sent when unlocking a car via the app. All right, so let me just break this down real quick. Applications on your phone are simply just web applications. It is a shell of software that is, in many, many instances, loading a website that you're interacting with. And they've designed the website in a way that makes you think that you're using like a traditional piece of hardware or software. But just about everything nowadays is transmitting data over a network using HTTP requests. That is the overwhelming majority of what is traversing networks. So this below request is a post. That means the MySubaru mobile app is sending a post request, which means it's trying to make something happen. It is sending data. If I was going to a website, then my browser here would be making a GET request, like get some data. Post is when data is being sent through the request. So there is a request being sent to this URL right here, and it's going to this host. The content of the request is JSON, JavaScript, object notation, and there are some various other headers. So if you're at all familiar with HTTP and data transfer, then this should look pretty familiar to you. But effectively, this is an application that is sending data, and this is the data that it's sending. Okay, so send to this URL this data. Post this data to the URL so that whatever is receiving this data at this server will then read this and take action. After failing to bypass the authorization for in-app vehicle commands, I looked around the app a bit more but couldn't find anything interesting to test. Everything seemed properly secured. There weren't a lot of endpoints. The authorization worked really well. Fantastic. Maybe testing the MySubaru app was the wrong approach. From my past experience with other companies, I knew there could be publicly accessible employee-facing applications with broader permissions than the customer-facing apps. With that in mind, I decided to shift focus and start hunting for other Subaru-related websites to test. Finding the Subaru admin panel. I sent my friend Shubs a message over Discord to see if he'd be interested in helping me find any potential Subaru employee applications. He said sure, and then immediately sent me this message. Have you ever seen this host before? SubaruCS.com. He noticed that my.subaru.com, a domain that the MySubaru app was using, was a C name for mys.prod.subarucs.com, a domain that I hadn't seen before. All right, now right here, this is showing an NS lookup, a name server lookup against mysubaru.com. And it is showing that the answer that's coming back, it's returning a canonical name or a CNAME record of www.mysubaru.com. And then mysubaru.com has an associated CNAME of mys.prod.subarucs.com. So they're explaining and showing the evidence of how they actually found this website domain. We ran a scan to find other subdomains and checked the output. Starlink admin panel with a link to the login. Well, that definitely looked like employee functionality. From a quick Google, it appeared that Starlink was the name of Subaru's in-vehicle infotainment system, which provided all of the remote functionality for the vehicle. This appeared to be an admin panel related to it. Wow. Arbitrary account takeover on Subaru Starlink admin portal. At first glance, it didn't seem like there would be much here. It was just a login panel. We didn't have any credentials. I checked the source of the website, hoping to see a bit more, and the following bit caught my eye. This is a reference to a script within the code on the website. So this is saying when the website loads, also load a JavaScript entity that is linked from right here. So this is where the resource sits. It's on the website itself. There was something interesting. JavaScript files under assets.js folder that were loaded into the login page. So I went ahead and brute forced the directory in hopes of finding other JavaScript files. I apologize. I'm still sick and recovering. After a few minutes of running FFUF, I'm actually not familiar with this. Fuzz faster, you fool. Fuzz. So this is related to, I believe, credential fuzzing, possibly. I'm not entirely sure. This is getting real data fuzzing. Yeah. This is getting real nitty-gritty here into the weeds. Again, feel free to come check this out, but I'm not going to get that deep into the weeds. After a few minutes of running that app, we got a hit for a login.js file, which the following very interesting code snippet. So you can see right here, they're dissecting the JavaScript request and taking a look at what they found. This is a function so that when someone clicks the new password submit object, most likely, or entity on the web page, it's going to execute this code block. It's making an asynchronous JavaScript call. It looks like this is jQuery, most likely. Possibly not, but I believe so. It's making a query, another post to this URL with this data. It appeared that there was a reset password.json endpoint that would reset employees' accounts without a confirmation token. If this worked how it was written in the JavaScript, then the attacker could simply enter any valid employee email and take over their account. I sent the following post request to confirm that the functionality was even accessible. So they're sending a post to that site using this data, effectively this email. So again, the server receives this, it parses out these keys, and then it can determine the values, and then it processes that, which however way it does on the back end. So they got an error. It was interesting, actually, though. It returned a 200. Maybe they are doing something right with obfuscating or trying to confuse people. But typically, a server would not return a 200 okay when a request is erroneous. Anyway, it seemed to be working. We just needed to find an employee's email address to test it on. Since this was a fairly large application, there were probably a bunch of different users. We just needed to find some way to enumerate them. I dug through the rest of the JavaScript looking for an endpoint that might let us enumerate emails until I saw the following. There's a get to the admin portal, get security question, and then you can input, this is a query parameter. Everything following the question mark is known as a parameter. Query parameter. So this is saying, it's very similar to what you would see in the post right here, where you have a body with a bunch of values, key value pairs. This is the exact same thing. Email equals example.email.com. It's just, generally speaking, when you're making a GET request and you want to filter results, or say, get me something from this resource, and then filter it by whatever. Right here, they're using email as the key and example.email.com as the value to this host. And this time, they got another 200 okay, but it says invalid email. The above endpoint would return the user security question if their email was valid. We could use this to enumerate user accounts until we found someone that was active on the platform. Enumerating employee emails. Using LinkedIn, we did a quick search for Subaru Starlink and found a few employees who appeared to be software engineers. After getting their names, we Googled and found that Subaru emails are in the following format. We tossed the few emails that we'd pieced together into the getSecurityQuestion.json endpoint and hit send. On the fourth attempt, we got a response back. Right here. This is the server responding effectively with the security question. What city were you born in? The redacted email was valid. We went back to reset the password endpoint and hit send. So they went back, they reattempted the post to the forgot password, reset password resource with the valid email address, and they received a 200 okay along with a success error, or a success message. It worked. Wow. They tried logging in. We had successfully taken over an employee's account, but there was now a two-factor authentication prompt to actually use the website. It was custom, so we tried to see if there was anything to do to bypass it. Bypassing two-factor authentication. We tried the simplest thing that we could think of, removing the client-side overlay from the UI. Sorry. Yeah, if you didn't know this, you can inspect a web page right here. So this is Chrome. I right-click. I go down to inspect. And then up here at the top left-hand corner, I can select an element in the page to inspect it. So let's say I just want to look at this element right here. Okay. You can see it takes me directly to the code block. When I'm hovering over the code block, it shows me the different elements therein. Well, you can remove stuff. You can hide the element. You could delete the element. You can edit all of this because it's right there on your browser. That's why they're talking about client side. The server has nothing to do, the majority of the time, with what you are doing when manipulating a website on the client side. Okay? So they just commented it out. They found the element on the page that was throwing this this little blocker up saying you need to do two-factor authentication, and then they commented it out to remove it. After removing the client-side overlay, we clicked around and the whole app seemed to function normally. All of the buttons worked and were returning server-side data. Unbelievable. Tracking my mom for the last year. The left nav bar had a ton of different functionality, but the juiciest sounding was last known location. I went ahead and typed in my mom's last name and zip code. Her car popped up in the search results. I clicked it and saw everywhere my mom had traveled the past year. The last known location endpoint was more than the last location. It gave me the exact coordinates of everywhere that she had started her engine or used the telematics command over the last year. I didn't realize this data was being collected, but it seemed that we had agreed to the Starlink enrollment when we purchased it. To better understand the data, I exported a year's worth of location history from my mom's 2023 Impreza and imported it into the Google Maps iframe below. The below map is a slightly modified export of all the locations she had visited. Jeez. 1,600 leaked coordinates. This is retrievable for any internet-connected Subaru. There are a ton of other endpoints. One of them was a vehicle search, which let you query a customer's last name and zip code, phone number, email address, or VIN number, retrievable via license plate, and grant modify access to their vehicle. So retrieving the address, phone number, email, emergency contacts, authorized users, billing information of any Subaru Starlink customer. Jeez. The Starlink search functionality allows you to search via zip code and last name, VIN, email address, and phone number. Unlocking a friend's car. After searching and finding my own vehicle on the dashboard, I confirmed that the Starlink admin dashboard should have access to pretty much any Subaru in the United States, Canada, and Japan. We wanted to confirm that there was nothing we were missing, so we reached out to a friend and asked if we could hack her car to demonstrate there was no prerequisite or feature which would have actually prevented a full vehicle takeover. She sent us her license plate and we pulled up her vehicle on the admin panel. Then we finally added ourselves to the car. We waited a few minutes and then saw that our account had been created successfully. Now that we had access, I asked if they could peek outside and see if anything was happening to their car. I sent the unlock command and they sent us this video. Yikes. Afterwards, she confirmed that she did not receive any notification, text message, or email that we added ourselves as an authorized user and unlocked her car. Jeez. Well, at least they fixed it, according to the timeline. When writing this, I had a really hard time trying to do another blog post on car hacking. Most readers of this blog post already work in security, so I really don't think the actual password reset or two-factor authentication bypass techniques are new to anyone. The part that I felt was worth sharing was the impact of the bug itself and how the connected car systems actually work. The car industry is unique in that an 18-year-old employee from Texas can query the billing information of a vehicle in California and it won't really set off any alarm bells. It's part of their normal day-to-day job. The employees all have access to a ton of personal information and the whole thing relies on trust. It seems really hard to really secure these systems when such broad access is built into the system by default. And that is really the key here when talking about security by design and how this is effectively insecure by design. The whole architecture is just wrong. And I'm really glad that this guy did some research, Mr. Sam Curry. and published a great article. It's fantastic. Well, I hope this has been informative. My apologies again for the coughing and whatnot, but I needed to do something today because I'm technically not working. So take care. Peace.